Hi, good morning.
Hello.
Welcome to the London Coffee Festival Fringe event. We normally stood behind a stand at the London Coffee Festival every year. We've been there for the last probably 7 years, I think. But we're delighted to be able to share with you this morning some secrets really to starting up a coffee shop post-COVID. And if you're out there first, wherever you're watching this, put a like or a comment in the box and tell us where you are, and then we can say how. We just to make sure you're there, that somebody's actually watching us. We're not talking to ourselves this morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll introduce ourselves. If you don't know us already, we're Andrew and Claire Bowen, and we're authors of the world's best-selling book, The Daily Grind, on how to open a profitable coffee shop business. We work with people like you all over the world. We're coffee shop and cafe coaches, and we work with people like you through our online courses and through one-to-one coaching. So today we're going to talk to you about the key things you need to know about opening a coffee shop post-COVID. The pandemic has brought forward the inevitable change. So where there was a slow move towards change, now behaviours have changed very, very quickly. Things like working from home has brought its adoption forward years, and the world has had a huge jolt. People are thinking differently. Now, you may be dreading going back to your old jobs, fed up with corporate life.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
And COVID may have given you time to think about your future. So now might be the best time ever to open a new coffee shop or cafe.
So today's presentation is and we're going to tell you about the 7 key things you need to know if you're planning to open at the moment. So the first thing we're going to tell you about is how the recession will affect coffee shops, and we lived through a couple of recessions. We're that old.
Well, yeah, we're definitely that old.
Yeah. We talk about how we've all changed and what differences this will make to how you'll be successful or not. We talk about why so many good businesses have closed and what's the ripple effect of that post-pandemic. The fourth thing we're going to tell you about is how you can save thousands in your setup. We're going to talk to you about rents, why rents have reset, and why once good places to open and now not good places to open. We're going to tell you about why physical space is now even more important when you're choosing your location to open.
And then we're going to tell you to be careful about whose advice you listen to. Please ask questions as we go along, and at the end we will go back and answer all of them in detail. So let's get started.
With number 1. So there's some good news.
Yeah, some very, very good news.
To start with.
So we start off with really, really good news. The coffee shop and cafe business is recession-proof. It's a recession-proof business. And we are going into a recession. And as Andrew said earlier, we're actually lived through the last recession. We're that old. In fact, we started our first coffee shop at the beginning of the last one. Perfect timing, you might add. But one of the winners during COVID has been the independent coffee shop.
You've probably seen that all over the news. There's been a couple of articles last week, in fact, where independents have shown that they've done really well. They've adapted, whereas the chains have really suffered, haven't they?
The chains have suffered in the city centres, and you've read that through social media and through business websites and
yeah, it's all over the place,
it's
basically.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So the city centre,
and you've probably seen the queues as well. You've probably seen the queues outside the little independents. If you live in a town or you live in a village out of town, you've probably seen the queues, coffee shops that you've probably never seen before. So they have done really well, and it's because
everybody still wants their little treat. Going back to that last recession that we were in when we opened our coffee shops, it was well documented that people still like their little treats. The high-end restaurants suffered.
Yeah, big time.
And the high-end and the poor middle range.
Yeah, anything average post-recession will suffer. So you can't be average.
Definitely can't be average. So a well-crafted menu will be recession-proof. And value is not all about price. No. People think value is about price,
so
but
don't go thinking that you can open a coffee shop and in the recession now's the time to open a coffee shop selling coffee for 50 pence with refills. That's not the way to go.
It's definitely not the way to go.
People are still looking for their little treats. In fact, the chairman of Costa all the way through the last recession cited their success down to the fact that people, and they grew massively. I think they grew by 400 sites in the last recession, in 2 years of the last recession. Cited their success down to the fact that people really didn't want to give up their little treats. It was the little treats they gave up last.
But watch out for the big players. They're aggressively looking at the coffee shop sales, and they're nibbling away at the breakfast and lunch businesses that coffee shops have always done well in. People like Greggs and Wetherspoons, and Pret with their subscription model.
Yeah, so when you are opening, if you're thinking of opening a coffee shop now, your business needs to be able to fight off this competition, because, as Claire said, you know, the coffee market, the breakfast menus, the lunchtime day part is where the chains are targeted even more, and it's where we've always been really strong as independents. But you know, you can't rest on your laurels to think what worked before the pandemic is going to necessarily work after, because we've all changed. You know, we've changed during the pandemic. We've had a massive jolt to our system. We look at the world differently now. We've had more time to reflect on stuff. We perhaps started using tech a lot more. Yes. That's something like Zoom. You know, we never picked up being able to. Nobody did Zoom this time last year.
Zoom is now the normal. Before COVID, hardly anybody used Zoom.
So people don't like travelling on public transport. They feel nervous. People are nervous generally, and social distancing and all that sort of stuff really makes people nervous when they're looking to go out to a coffee place. So your coffee place, your new coffee place, needs to understand this nervousness of the customer and build it in.
It's not just you following the government guidelines that you have to have social distancing, masks and all the rest of it. You have to understand the way your guests feel. It's the safety, they feel the safety. It's not necessarily you just following the guidelines.
Yeah, and of course there's more working from home. So with this tech, there's a lot of people working from home now, but they are really craving social interaction. That's probably why the local independent coffee shops have done, one of the reasons they've done so well is because if you are working from home and you're stuck in the four walls, you know, you need to get out. People craving that social interaction. We've seen what's happened last week with the pubs reopening, the pub gardens reopening, people queuing, and people, you know, even on some of the wettest, coldest days, people were outside in that pub because it's about the third place. It's about somewhere not house, not work, but that third place.
And I think actually the independents have done really well, because those people who used to go into the big cities to work are now at home, and they've actually found out about these little coffee shops that they didn't even know existed. So that's why the independent is doing so well.
Yeah, and people don't miss the commute either, do they?
No.
You know, they don't miss the commute, and that's going to change the whole dynamic. That's where some of that we'll talk about in a minute later on, around the dynamic of city centres and what used to make a great site isn't necessarily a great site now. People want to be able to work in a safe environment, but not in the office, and that's where the coffee shop, the Coffis, WFC we call it, work from coffee shop. That's where the opportunity lies for the independent. You know, having good Wi-Fi, having plugs, having an environment that nurtures a good place to work will be the place that people will flock to.
Because to be honest with you, the workplace is changing.
Yeah.
I mean, people aren't going to rush back to the offices. The biggest employers are realising that they can save money by not having big offices and having people working at home. And the biggest employers, 24, are not bringing their people back to their offices anytime soon. And the government is one of those people. They're not bringing their people back very soon.
Transport hubs are empty, neighbourhood coffee shops are growing. So it's that sort of way people have changed. Their outlook has changed, but they're craving social interaction. So they prefer to support an independent rather than big chains. Look at how Wetherspoons caused that furore at the beginning of the pandemic, when they announced they're going to sack everyone. You know, they haven't covered themselves in glory, and the big chains again. People have got this affinity now to the independents. Those independents, particularly, who've changed their model for during the pandemic. They've, perhaps selling fruit and veg. They've started becoming a baker. They've done other things as well. They've been the heart of the community, and this sort of thing will pay dividends as we go forward for
Definitely.
The independent.
They'll be in the heart of the community, and diversifying by selling milk and fruit and veg and bread. They've diversified and evolved very, very quickly, and the customers like that.
But we've also changed as well, because a lot of us, a lot of people now are more concerned with their welfare, wellness, work-life balance, spending more time with loved ones. They've reevaluated what's important, and you might be watching this because you are one of those people who are thinking, well, actually, I'm fed up with the corporate world. I no longer want to work for someone else. I really, really want to run a coffee shop. Well, now's a great time to do that. You know, people think this life's too short. You know, we need to do it now. They might not enjoy their current job. And the new coffee shop that's successful will be delivering things for these new demands. You know, the wellness, the low fats, the free-froms, added proteins, you know, all that, you know, live culture food, all that sort of stuff that you need to adapt. You know, the kombuchas, all those sort of things we discovered. We've all made kombucha during lockdown.
But the new generation of people have never been so heightened by their wellness and the looking after themselves. So the successful coffee shops are taking that on board and adapting. Yeah,
you need to do that. You need to follow that trend. You need to lead that trend.
Definitely, definitely. Going on to number 3, which is there's going to be an awful lot of closures.
Yeah, we've already seen loads and loads of them already.
For existing businesses, it's really hard because there's going to be an awful lot of closures. But that can work to the advantage of the newbie setup, can take advantage of this, because there's going to be abundance, and there has been, and there will still be coming, an availability of sites. Sites that were never, ever available to the small independent businesses. There's going to be less competition as the businesses close. I mean, Pret, for example. Pret
they've shut. I think they shut at the beginning of the pandemic. They shut back 300 sites straight away, and they were prime sites before, but they overpaid for rent. And of course, there's another rent quarter day. These rent quarter days come around every quarter.
Funny enough, they're rent quarter days.
And this is where the businesses really hands are forced. At the moment, we've got this thing called a rent moratorium, which means that the landlords aren't allowed to kick out tenants who haven't paid their rent. But when that finishes, oh dear, dear, dear.
Well, there's going to be an awful lot of businesses that have struggled and kept going with this window of opportunity. But when the rent quarter comes along, they're going to have to pay the back rent.
Yeah, they will.
And because the landlord needs to make his money too.
So there's two things going to happen there, because this rent bill is racking up. It's on the balance sheet. It's a debt. So that debt's called in. The business is going to be insolvent. So a lot of businesses are going to go to the wall. A lot of people are going to take the opportunity to leave the industry. So that leaves you. That's a really, really sad for those people who've got their existing business. We've already seen people lose their business already. It's not something to shout about or to be pleased about, but it does give you lots of opportunities. Number one, for all those sites that are out there that that are able, sat there empty potentially.
But also, with those closures of businesses, there's going to be an awful lot of great people out there looking for opportunities, and you can take advantage of that. There's never ever been a better time for you to recruit great people.
No, we've got some fantastic. Some of our clients we've encouraged our clients when they're reopening to start recruiting early on. So they've been recruiting for the last 5-6 weeks, and the quality of people out there looking for new opportunities is I've never seen it so good. We in our business, when we used to recruit, it was always a challenge. It was never I've never seen it as good. And of course, there are thousands of sites now, because they're empty out there, that are perfect for your startup. And this is really how you can save thousands really on buying a ready-made business. There is literally tons of cash you can save.
You can take advantage of this, because you can actually save a fortune in your setup costs. Things like air conditioning, ventilation, flooring, power supplies, plumbing. You could save a fortune on the setup.
What we've seen is with these people who we mentioned in the last point over, they're becoming insolvent and leaving. They're literally going out the front door, leaving everything in the shop. One of our clients took over a unit from an operator, opened the fridge, and literally it was full of their stuff, full of the fridge.
There was cheese and half milk bottles and
they've
things.
just done a run, basically. So you could, there is an opportunity for you as a new startup to take over a fully fitted, kitted out restaurant or cafe like never ever before, really. And those opportunities are massive for you.
But also, there's equipment out there, a glut of second-hand equipment like never before, and there's warehouses full of equipment that you can buy really good second-hand equipment at a fraction of the price of the new.
In fact, the administrators for a lot of the businesses that have gone bust have actually been complaining that on their write-up of how they're going to get best value for shareholders by selling this equipment. Basically, they're saying that the equipment's worth pretty much nothing now in these restaurants that have shut. And there is, as Claire said, we know of half a dozen warehouses around the country which are absolutely chock-a-block. If you want an ice machine, you want a dishwasher, you want a fridge, you want a counter, you want a coffee machine, it's all there, and you can get it for a fraction of the price.
But remember, what made a good site pre-COVID may no longer be a good site for you. City centres are empty, aren't they?
Yeah, no. So London, I think the latest data on the Tube data is about 35% capacity compared to what it was pre. Office complexes are empty, city centres are empty. It's, what was a good site? So if you're looking to buy a site and it's empty, you need to look at it through a different lens now, because some places that used to be a great place to open are no longer going to be. So, rural towns are busy, dormitory towns are busy, and they're not very well served for cafes for you to be able to work from. So there's a great opportunity there for you to look at getting a business like that. So that's a great opportunity there. So don't underestimate the level of opportunity there with a new site.
Definitely. And rents are resetting. The landlords are much more flexible. As I've said before, they're much more flexible to small independent business than they were pre-COVID. But not outwardly. You may not obviously see that they're more flexible, but they are. The rents advertised may still be the same, but they will do deals. Yeah,
they'll do deals. There'll be longer time, rent-free periods. They might help with a refit. There's lots of stuff, but landlords are looking for confidence. So one of the most important things we'll talk about later on is the importance of having a very strong business plan. Don't think you just walk up to the landlord and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I used to be in IT, I've got a few grand and I won't run a coffee shop. They'll want somebody to be there for the long term. They're looking for adding value to their site.
Well, because they're worried because they've got big units, the offices are closed, and they can see, the landlord can see that a good coffee offer is often a magnet. And having a good coffee shop, an independent coffee shop there,
definitely
will bring people to the rest of their empty building.
Yeah, and of course there is another opportunity as well in terms of taking up space in larger units. So you might actually become a partner. There's an opportunity for you to partner with a bigger shop, for instance, that has perhaps turned a lot of its business online, doesn't need as much floor space. They might have a whole section that they could hand over to a coffee shop operator. They've got no experience of running one, so they were looking for somebody to do that. So be on the lookout for those sort of opportunities.
And the opportunities, think outside the box. It's not the same opportunities that were pre-COVID. As Andrew said, these joint ventures in other people's business can be a really cost-effective way for you to start your independent coffee business.
But you need a strong business plan.
Definitely.
And the business plan you wrote in 2019 or early 2020 isn't the same business plan you need today, because all the metrics have changed, all the numbers have changed, ingredients have changed,
everything has changed,
staff rates have changed, everything's changed. So even VAT's changed, but business rates have changed. So the business plan you wrote before, or the business plan that you perhaps looked into doing, or the one that you find one online that's there from pre-COVID, it's not going to be good enough for post-COVID business planning. Really, you'll need to think about these other things that have changed.
So when you're looking for your site, as we said, everything has changed. Now, size, we've always said size matters.
Yeah, if you've seen any of the stuff we ever do, if you've ever spoken to us on the phone, then and if you've read our book, or you've read any of our blogs, or read any of our articles in Boughton's, you'll see that we talk about size. You either buy yourself a job in a small coffee shop, or a cart, or you get yourself a business. if you get enough seats.
Exactly, because so size does matter. And if you have a big enough unit, you can buy yourself a business, somewhere that you can set up and take a step back, put a manager in, and move on to site 2. If it's too small, you've got yourself a job, as Andrew just said. And you were going to say comfort for occupancy is greatly cold.
Yeah, so there are literally thousands of cafes across the land that will never ever be profitable again now, because they haven't got enough room for COVID safe seating, and that'll take them below the break even. So if you've got a coffee shop that just about breaks even with a 20-seater or a 12-seater, and suddenly because of COVID you can only get 4 seats in there or 6 seats in there, you're never ever going to make money. So there are thousands of cafes across the land that are going to sit there, and because people want comfort. It's not just what the government stipulates.
Or the scientists.
Say. I think people are going to be, they're not going to be happy to be cheek and jowl with people for a very long time yet.
There's going to be certain parts of the population that are going to be very, very nervous and want to sit outside. They want the social distances. So outside seating is more valuable than it's ever been.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where we've seen in the last week when the outside the pubs have opened, the value of a covered, heated outside space. We can't emphasize enough the size of a new unit and the ability to put outside seating in.
But the good news is that there are bigger units available than ever before, because there are more, and they've also changed the planning laws last year as well, which makes it easier for you to convert a retail place into a cafe as well. So that helps, but you need to understand that. A lot of landlords don't even know that yet at the moment. And of course, you know, the more space you've got, the more opportunity you got for multi-purpose space for people. You can have zones for people to work from work from coffees. They can have their coffees, work from coffee shop. I always struggle with that, get my teeth sorted on that one. But yeah, you're able to have more zones in a place, and have the right lighting, the right plugs, the right Wi-Fi, all that sort of stuff.
All the ambience, and a bigger place, you can have more zones to fit in with what your new customers want.
And of course then there's technology as well. So we talked about Zoom earlier, but the technology has had an impact on this size thing as well. So people don't like, they like to pre-order now. They're used to pre-ordering. They don't like queuing at the counter, so they like to order at the table. Deliveroo and Uber Eats have created what we call these hidden competitors. So in the old days, before these delivery services were in, you knew who your competitor was. Your competitor was the coffee shop across the road, was the sandwich shop there, was the pub, was the cart. You knew where they were. Now you don't.
You could see exactly what your competitors were doing, but now, with all the Deliveroo, Uber Eats, they're hidden, and you cannot necessarily see exactly what they're doing.
So you need to understand that, you know, the extra competition you've got online, not necessarily next door, so you need to build that into your business plan as well. And if you do go into bed with these operators, then you need to understand the impact on your margins, on your operational flow, how it affects your business as well. So there are opportunities by doing the Deliveroo and the Uber Eats and the delivery stuff, but there is an impact. You can't operate the business in the same way. You've got to do things differently, because it will impact your margins and your profits.
And number 7 is that there is an awful lot of out-of-date advice out there. As we've said, things have changed, and much of this out-of-date advice is from people who've never actually run their own successful business. I mean, we have stood in your shoes. As we said, we opened our first coffee shop at the beginning of the last recession, and we've trodden your path, and we've worked with hundreds of different businesses like yours all around the world to open successfully.
Yeah, now there is an awful lot of out-of-date advice out there. There was an awful lot of poor advice on the internet, on YouTube and stuff. And if you look at the detail of some of this advice, when you're doing your research, if you're in the research phase now, look at where that advice is coming from. Is it from a till company, an EPOS company that wants you to open? Is it from a equipment supplier that's telling you their oven is the best or their coffee machine is the best? Is it from a high-end coffee roaster who tells you that their coffee's selling like hotcakes and you need to buy it? And they won't tell you the truth. You know, they just see you as as an opportunity to grow their customer base, but they don't necessarily see it as haven't necessarily got your heart in mind, really. Haven't got your best wishes in mind. So, for instance, when you speak to a landlord about location, we've talked about it already around locations. What were great sites pre-pandemic? Look at Pret. These are now sites that are never going to be work successfully. There are some small coffee shops out there that will never ever make any money because they're going to be too small. You're never going to get enough people in them to the break even. Your operating system needs to be tuned because wages are so much higher now. We've also, as well as the pandemic, we've also gone through, I think it's 2 minimum wage increases in the last year. So wages are higher. So you need to be even better with scheduling your hourly sales. You need to look at everything you do to set up when you're building your site, when you're building the layout, when you're doing the work, when you're considering the workflow. You need to look at all those things, all those tasks you're doing to ensure that you take time out of them, so there's nothing that takes you too long. You're not building in inefficiencies, and find better ways of doing it, because you've also got to treating the staff costs now.
Well, I think treating the staff costs now, as Andrew said, they're so high. Treat the staff costs per item as an ingredient on your recipes. We've already said you've got to plan the ergonomics of the design of the layout of your coffee shop, but you've also got to plan your menu. And the menu that you plan is going to be different, as we've already said, from pre-COVID. But when you're building that new menu and you're looking at the recipes and the ingredients, you should be treating staff costs as an ingredient in your recipe, because they will make a difference to the margin and, most importantly, the profit that you make. I mean, ingredients prices have fluctuated with Brexit and
pandemic, Brexit, the Suez Canal.
We weren't going to mention the Suez Canal. Yeah. But the prices are fluctuating, and they will fluctuate. So there's no point in you putting a menu together and saying a certain item costs X, because you have to keep reviewing the items, the costs of everything, so that you are on top of your margins and your recipes to make sure that you make money.
Yeah, and there's a lot of traps out there. There are a lot of dog sites out there that you're not going to get told the truth about, that you need to understand. And you've got to be really, really clear on your financial projections, because landlords, anybody will want you to have a top-notch business plan. Now, before COVID, we used to run a quite well-renowned training course in London, at the London Business Design Centre actually, and it was for the Coffee Shop Boot Camp. And we did it with some great partners over the years, with Union Hand Roasted Coffee and with San Remo Coffee Machines, to name but a few. And this course we used to run, and obviously it was pre-COVID.
Yes.
Cost over £1,000 to attend, and of course if you had transport and accommodation, people were paying probably upwards of £3,000 to come on the course, but it was worth every single penny, we know that. But we've put every single lesson, every template, every spreadsheet, and all our experience online now at startupacoffeeshop.com. And you can get all this experience and membership of our private coaching group for only £99. And this £99 gives you lifetime access to the course and a free month's access to the online private coaching group. And if you want to carry on with the private group, that will cost you another £30 a month.
And the beauty of this private Facebook group is that we will answer every question that you put in there.
Yeah, and if you think about the cost of opening a new coffee shop, it's not insignificant. It starts at tens of thousands and could literally go into hundreds of thousands. Just one small area can cost you tens of thousands of pounds over the lifetime. So £99, in our opinion, is an absolute steal to understand those mistakes and actually stop you from taking them. And there's a good double guarantee. So buying the Startup a Coffee Shop course, we guarantee that it'll pay for itself. And if for any reason you don't think it's worth it, then tell us and we'll send you money back. This is a double no quibble guarantee. And we talked about a bonus at the beginning, and if you join in the next 7 days, you'll get a free 2-hour live workshop over Zoom on how to build a fantastic business plan with Claire and myself. And if you join today, we'll give you an extra bonus. If you join before midnight tonight of watching this, then you will send you a free copy of our book. the daily grind. So what are you waiting for? Go over now to startupthecoffeeshop.com. Have a look at that. But before we let you go, we'll just answer some of these questions. We've had quite a lot of questions come through. Yeah, I can see a load of questions come through during this. So we'll just change the camera around and we'll go and answer the questions a bit closer to the screen. There we go. Hopefully you can hear us now. It's cool. So yeah, that was it's a lovely, lovely morning here in Oxfordshire, and you know, it makes you good to feel alive, really. So we've got a few questions. The first one was how do you find good sites? So the most important thing before you to find a good site is to understand your why. You know, what is that coffee shop you're opening? What is that going to serve? How's it going to serve the local community? And what are you going to sell? What is your passion? You know, is it coffee? Is it cakes? Is it, you know, a new style of food? Is it vegan food? Is it, you know, gluten-free? What is it? Are you going to serve mums and babies, or are you going to, you know, get that really clear? And once you've got that really clear in your head, then it's easier to get a site. We always say if your first site, really, you want it fairly close to your home. You don't really want to, you don't really want to travel an hour and a half in the morning. You really want to be able to get out of bed, walk 10 minutes or half an hour, get there.
I mean, that was one mistake we made.
Yeah.
Our first coffee shop was an hour's drive. That's an hour's drive there, hour's drive back. That's 2 hours a day wasted. So bear that in mind when you're choosing your site.
Yeah, that's definitely something. I think we were used to traveling and commuting in our corporate jobs. I was in particular, you know, traveling all over the world and, you know, on planes and stuff. So an hour never didn't feel that long in my normal day job. But actually, when you're working in a coffee shop, you're working in your business, you really want to be there fresh. And having an hour tagged on the beginning and the end of the day was hard work. So get to know your local area, get talking to people, join the Chamber of Commerce, join the Chamber of Trade, some local bodies, have a chat with the planners, you know, just have a general chat with people, find out who are the key people in the location, and then speak to them, because you need to find out. Often these sites don't come to the market, and they disappear before you know this. If you're in the know, if you know what's going on, then you can smell a site that is working. In our book, if those of you who bought our book, you'll see in the second chapter is all about location. Choosing a location. In fact, we put together a 72-point checklist, which comes with the book. So when you buy the book, there's some resources available online, and you can get those. So and there's a 72-point checklist, which is unique, I think.
Which is brilliant for you to analyze every site that you're looking at, and you can compare. Oh, should I have that one or that one? And you can compare the two sites by going through the checklist. But go out into your local community. I know it's COVID restrictions and all the rest of it, but you can look around and you can see, as Andrew said, you can smell the ones that are not doing very well. That you know, the owner looks a little bit tired. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a for sale sign on the door. So to go around your local area, know where people go, and your why, your avatar, your people that you want to attract to your coffee shop are there.
Yeah, because you know, they don't all come to market in the same sort of way. And the next question we've got is what a business plan. You know, what's a good business plan look like? Well, I suppose a good business plan is what a good business plan looks like is what it looks like the person who's asking for the business plan, really. So you need to put yourself in the mind, in the feet of the person who needs that confidence. So business plans are all about confidence more than anything else. So if you've got tons and tons of coffee shop experience, and if you've got a load of cash and you're willing to risk a lot of it yourself, then in reality, the risk for the landlord is lower. But if you're trying to do it on a tighter budget, and you haven't got as much experience, then a really good business plan with sound financials, with good projections, understanding how your menu will translate into sales, understanding how many customers you need at what different times of the day and how those day parts work, and if there's anything else you can do to make money out of that site, it is really important. So, you know, it's about putting your feet into the shoes of the person that you're delivering the business plan to. So if it is a landlord, you know, they want long-term certainty. If it's a bank, again, they'll need the same thing. If it's a friend who's lending you some cash, then they'll need to know that you know what's going on. So you might even be a supplier. There's lots of ways of getting cash, but
the main thing is just to know your numbers. So there's no point in putting something in your business plan and then someone can pull it apart and you haven't worked. Well, I'm not sure how I got to that point. You've got to know your numbers, know the breakdown of everything that you put in there, so that you can back your business plan up and you can be confident when you present your business plan to whoever needs to be presented to. It's really important that you get that right.
Yeah, the next one we got about rents. You know, how do I know what a good rent is? Well, we with our clients, we've got some processes we go through with them to work out what we think each potential site will take or has got the capacity to take. It's based on a combination of seats, customer flow, menu, table sizes, menu pricing. All those sort of things come together in one big sort of calculation that we do for them to work out what we think a site will take. So, and then once you know how much that site will take, then you can work out the affordability of it. So anything less than, you know, you should target less than 10% in sales, in cost of rent and rates. That's what you should be targeting. So anything more than that, then, you know, the business model doesn't really work. So, but you can, you know, put yourself again in the shoes of the landlord. You know, what do they want? You know, they want a business that will help them make their whole block attractive. You might be able to get it much cheaper. So a good business plan for that brings more to the party.
Exactly, and if you don't ask in this world, you don't get. So you might, as you said, the price ticket on all the sites for the sale might not show that they're resetting their prices, but they are resetting their prices. And you can actually negotiate, help fitting it out. You can negotiate rent-free periods, and you can negotiate a take-ins related rent.
Yeah, sales related rent. There's a lot changed now since before the pandemic. Landlords will accept independents much more readily than they've seen the big chains. They've seen the big things take them to the cleaners, really, because they've got, you know, everyone's gone through a CVA. Everyone's, you know, take them to court and say, well, either if you know, if you don't give us half price rent, then we're gonna leave anyway, or we're gonna go, you know, bankrupt and blah blah blah. So landlords are feeling a bit at the moment, and they're still going to feel So actually, independence, you've got a little bit more control over that. We've had a question there on the screen. There's a magic formula to add wages and utility costs. Well, utility costs start with wages. So really, you've got two drivers for wage. You've got, ideally, your target needs to be below 30%. If you're busy, if you've got 100 cover restaurant, and you could probably get that down to 20% rent, so 20% of sales. But unfortunately, you've got the minimum staffing that kicks in, that knocks up. So if you've got a smaller site, say you've got a 20-seater, a 25-seater, and you're probably gonna need, and you've got a reasonable menu, you're probably gonna need 2 people on at all time. And unfortunately, based on sales alone, you won't really need 2 people in the site. We say around £50 an hour to start off with is a good number of staffing level. So one man hour to cover 50 or 60 pounds or dollars worth of sales.
It's a good way to start off to look at it when you're estimating how much.
But if you're taking less than 100 or less than £50 in some hours, you will do at the shoulders of the day, then, you know, your rent, you will need more than one person there, particularly for start cleaning and closing, so your rent will go up. And in terms of utilities, Well, never underestimate the cost of electricity or gas. Pretty much the rates are all fixed, and I would say your rent and rates need to be lumped into that 10%. Your biggest cost of utilities is going to be electricity, and that depends on the size of the unit, how much aircon you've got, and on what type of kitchen and what ovens and you're going to use, and your menu.
Unfortunately, you need electricity, but it's a way of factoring in how you negotiate contracts and pricing. Don't just assume that you'll sign up with a company and everything will be fine. You've got to negotiate. Yeah,
so I think as ballpark figures, a small site, you've got a budget for about 5 to 10 grand in electricity per year. If you're in a bigger site, probably 15k electricity cost. Don't underestimate it. It's blooming expensive.
Yes, it is.
We found that. And one thing we always say, we talk to our clients, and what we used to do religiously was, because it's such an expensive cost, do meter readings every week, so you know exactly how much water, how much electricity, how much gas.
And it used to work really good for us, because our team were then thinking, oh, we've used more electricity this week. Or perhaps it's because I left the light on all night. Or
you can see.
They could become more involved in the process of keeping a close eye on everything.
Well, I think we've got no more comments now, as far as I can see.
Yeah, I can't.
So that's been great. We've really hope you've enjoyed our 7 points. Everything has changed post-COVID. You can't have the same business model that worked pre-COVID. In summary, sites that used to be fantastic are no longer as fantastic. Areas that you were great to open in are no longer great. Your wages costs have gone up, your ingredients costs have gone up through COVID, and they're not going to come down. Everything's changed.
And your customers have changed.
Yeah, and your customers have changed as well as you. We talked about the importance of the small sites. That sounded a bit horrible, really, to all those if you're running a small site at the moment. But I really feel for you, because it is going to be really difficult to make decent cash at these small sites when people are really nervous about going into them. So I would definitely consider that, getting something with really good outside space. Yes, cheers. Hopefully we'll see you at the real London Coffee Festival in September. We're at our stand. Same place.
We hope to physically be there.
Yeah, the normal place we normally go to in the Innovation Centre. We're assuming that, because it was really tight where we were. So whether we'll actually be allowed to be in that same location is another matter. But we will keep you up to date. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and keep us, see our musings, read our articles in Boughton's magazine. And if you are seriously considering opening a coffee shop, then you should look into our Startup Coffee Shop course, and we will help you on your journey. So, cheers. Have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.